Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for this welcome. I feel part of the community already. It's an honor to find myself among you all today. I know that we're living through very busy lives, and we have at any given moment many demands placed on us. So I'm really grateful that you all made some time to be here to exchange breath and creativity and maybe a conversation around art as a practice of sacred resistance, collective healing, and deepening belonging. That's the name of the talk. So I will share my screen with you all. You have access to my desktop here. I will play the slideshow. Can you see that? I can't quite see all of you, so maybe I'll do this differently. 1 second. Let's try this way. Oh, now I can see you. Can you see this? Is the image coming through?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So, I would like to begin our time together by acknowledging and thanking each and every one of you for being here today. The fact that we find ourselves here is a miracle, despite all the ways our bodies have had to absorb the impact of the busy lives that we're living, the events that have been unfolding these last few weeks and months and years. And today I'll be sharing a few of my musings, my learnings, art, and research in hopes that we can come together and find some time to slow down, to breathe, to contemplate, to learn, and to ruminate. Well, I come from a long lineage of women weavers who found ways to create life out of the impossibility of one. In the sacred space of their homes, they have woven webs over the violences that threatened their lives. In their weaving circles, their kitchens, their living rooms, and churches, they reinvented life and walked with the divine, built communities of creative resistance, of love, of spiritual practice, and healing. This is a drawing I created imagining my great grandmother, whom I did not meet, Vovó Mocinha. She sits weaving in her advanced age. Perhaps her eyes can't see anymore. Her hands follow what her embodied memory remembers. I think of my background and epistemological curiosity coming from this circle of weaving women. It's been dedicated to trying to understand how art, creativity, and imagination are tools that help us all conjure, potentialize, and incendiar. This is a word in Portuguese for lighting a fire into our communities with divine spark. I'm curious about how we can create communities of care that collectively bring to this world a more affectionate way of being, of healing and becoming together. Today, we will think about how the arts can be practices of sacred resistance, promoting healing and deepening belonging. As you can imagine, my research and academic questions these last few years have been connected and concerned with the layers of complexities we are traversing, how our communities have been responding to the profound and collective crises, the disempowerment, the trauma, genocide. I have been wondering how we will remember our inherent capacity to be at once problematic and prophetic to these systems of harm. How do we pause? How do we grieve? And how do we weep? So we can turn to Laura Perez's question of how to return from being wounded, betrayed, and violated, both individually and collectively. What are some of the practices that help us create life out of the impossibility of one? How can we restore a sense of groundedness, togetherness, as we continue to resist, to denounce, and to bend the arc toward justice? How do we repair and how do we heal? For me, in order to open up space where we can be grounded in love, in communities, our spirituality, deepening our sense of belonging, we need practices that are capable of weaving these webs over the voids and the abysses that exist between the I, the Tao, and the collective we. Well, Gloria Saldúa was keenly aware that her job as an artist, writer, scholar, activist was to bear witness to what haunts us as humans so that we can begin to imagine how to repair el daño caused by her own country around the world. She wrote, I believe in the transformative power and the medicine of art. As I see it, this country's real battle is with its shadow, its racism, its patriarchy, its propensity for violence, rapacity for consuming, and neglect of its responsibility to global communities and the environment, the unjust treatment of the dissenters and the disenfranchised. As an artist, she writes, I feel compelled to expose the shadow side that the mainstream media and the government denies. In order to understand our complicity and responsibility, we must look to our shadows. She goes on to say that art helps us look at our shadows and name the ways in which the US has manipulated and overthrown independent nations in Latin America, in Asia, in Africa to establish dictatorships. She names El Salvador, Nicaragua, Brazil, Chile, Guatemala, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, South Africa, Indonesia, the Philippines, Pakistan, the Palestinian territories from having suffered from the heavy imperial presence of the US. Dr. Ada Maria Isasi Diaz was dedicated to very similar work, developing a mujerista theology as a liberative praxis and a practice as well, rooted in the lived experiences of working class Latinas like me. Rather than positioning herself as the expert, she sat down with women, probably in their kitchens, in their churches, in their communities, to hear from them, to learn with and from them. She published their words, not just her interpretations of it, and crucially, she shared the visibility and the resources with them, paying them for the labor that they had done. She thickened the spaces where these Latina women could occupy in the academy. And for that, I'm grateful because that paved the way for me to be here. Her work teaches us that research and storytelling and art making and engaging with our spiritualities can be acts of very deep solidarities. She engaged with acts of sacred resistance. And Charter Oak Cultural Center continues to do this work as well, and I'm grateful for that too. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here talking to you. Through Art Center programs, you are doing the sacred work of justice. Rabbi Donna Berman, Dr. Berman, thank you for the work that you're doing. The sacred work of justice through creativity. In this historic space that you occupy, you make room for voices, expressions, and poetics that often go unheard. And I'm sure that children leave classes, rehearsals, the stages, the encounters forever transformed. And this is priceless. The arts have this power of reflecting back to us all of our gifts, healing us in the process. And so for that, I'm grateful too. In Por uma Educação Romântica, for a romantic education, I guess would be the translation for this. This is Rubem Alves. He's a Brazilian artist, professor, theologian, turned psychoanalyst, turned children book writer, speaks about how the woundedness and the tragedies in life can make us come to a visceral understanding of life. In literature, poetry, music, storytelling, a poignant piece of artwork that I see in the backgrounds of where you are can be nutrients for our hungry bodies, joy for our anguished souls, because he writes, maybe, there is an invisible artist that lives in each and every one of us. Our bodies are not sustained by bread alone. It hungers for beauty, for what is artful. Do we learn how to build things? Sure, yes, we do. But we also need to educate our senses. They yearn for the possibilities of living life that experiences joy and awe and beauty and wonder. As an educator, storyteller, world maker who embodied the verb esperançar, to hope, he was a compulsive fruidor de vida. He conjured new life into being, even in the face of impossibility, interruption, and political exile. He was exiled into the US. I'll talk a little bit more about this later, at Princeton Theological Seminary. So I like to think of all of these ancestors, like artists, poets, writers, and mystics, as spiritual practitioners who are adept of weaving webs over the voids created by suffering, pain, and woundedness. Like our sisters, the spiders, they help us connect to ourselves, each other, and the earth in ways that recover what our intellect tends to forget, reaching for those interior spaces in us, in embodied, surprising, and striking ways. We all share in this capacity for restoration and co creation. The spiders not only create beautiful works of art, structures that are very fragile but very resilient. They are beautiful and complex, but they also are weaver of worlds. As conjurer artists, I learned from Rubem Alves that the spiders measure the risk. They carry the gossamer within their bodies and set in motion a kind of co-creation with the divine. The thread, he writes, is hidden within the spider's body. It allows her to plunge into the void so the weaving can begin. The web, in a sense, I believe, is already within us. The gossamer, this divine gossamer, is within us. And even before we leap, we know that we can do so because the thread is within. So the art can educate our affections and senses, as Alves puts it, while inspiring us to resist, connect, and to tend to all of our relations. I think of these drawings when I'm making them as little as webs, as layers of flesh, of connective tissue. The arts are generative tools for the integration of embodied and intellectual knowledge. There's sites for world making, for dreaming, for rehearsing, for choreographing possibilities of being and intervening in the world. And I think it's through the arts that we can come together to talk about our difficult experiences because they offer us a dose of healthy distance. They allow us to see and access what is visceral and the somatic life of the body in ways that are not directly connected to us, so to speak, right? It's through this language that the artist is creating. And so it allows us to touch the reflexes, the limits, our intuition, our responses, our desires and our needs. And we have been doing this for millennia as a species. So I want to share with you a little bit about where I come from and how even though it's a beautiful country, we've been through our fair share of difficulties and complexities and violences and harm. This is a video of Rio de Janeiro. It's beautiful, it's welcoming. They say this was a city uh, that was created by the divine hands of God. We also have here the city of Salvador, Bahia, my favorite in the country. It's multi-dimensional, it's continental, it's vibrant, the food is amazing, it's colorful, and it's filled with kind hearts and creative souls. Yet this country is drenched in the waters of cishet patriarchy, of sexism, of colonialism, extractivism, capitalism, you name it, racism and violence, and impacted by the rise of fascism and neo-fascism and so much more right now. And I was born during a period where the country was still under a dictatorship. So for about 20 plus years, almost 30 years, repression, state violence, martial law confiscated our rights to many things, including the right to assemble publicly and to thicken the spaces of our democratic engagement. The dictatorship was one of the reasons why Rubem Alves in 1964 was denounced by his own Presbyterian siblings as a communist and had to burn his books and throw some of them in the river, part of his library, because government officials came to inspect the house, and he had to pay attention to what he was saying, who he interacted with, living under the fear of heavy repression. So during that very same year, an invitation by the president of Princeton Theological Seminary arrived for him to pursue doctoral studies, and off he went. As he hopped into the plane, into freedom, he was also hopping into a life of exile, right, in the US. And yet, within basements, rural areas, through the cracks on the walls, the cracks on the systems, the bars, the restaurants, schools, churches, opposition continued to breathe and compose the freedom and resistance songs. The 70s and 80s were phenomenal places for generating meaning. And here we see pictures from newspaper clippings of people who strategized for resistance. The universities, the grounds of resistance, and the arts were setting traps for totalitarian regimes. They attempted to smuggle some dignity back into the streets. They were laboratories for reinventing existence. The aesthetic and ethic innovation, as Laura Perez puts it. So not only were academics, writers, activists, artists, such as ourselves, imagining worlds differently, they were also rehearsing and expanding the possibility of action, even through repression. So they had to get really smart about and really strategic um, and moving like the trickster in the space of that Ansaldúa calls the Nepantla space. It's a Nahuatl world for living in betweenness. And that's how we get to this artwork. This artwork, we see here the Lija Papi, the artist, conjured this during the military coup in Rio. During a time where people were literally forbidden to gather in public spaces. I always bring this example to my classes, and I'm doing here because I just think it's so powerful. This is called divisor, the divider. And what it was a cloth with 200 holes on it that people could wear the sculpture. So while people were wearing and marching down the streets during martial law, people were also exchanging information and setting traps against the totalitarian regime. Once the 200 participants were properly positioned, they were wearing this sculpture and they were invited to enact a procession in a work that's meant to unfold and flow freely even in the most horrific periods of this country's history. They seized, even if momentarily, their right to assemble, right? As a community of the wounded, this work created a space of possibility. This is the power that artists have in our society. I don't know how many times this was enacted. I don't have that information, but imagine if every time this procession happened, you exchanged information about where the next meeting is going to be, what kind of mail you're going to deliver to try to get your siblings who are about to be taken by the police into safety. If you haven't yet done so, I highly encourage you to watch I'm Still Here. It's a movie, a Brazilian movie that came out this year. It won, or last year, it won best film, it's not international, foreign film, I think. I'm Still Here. And you'll see silence as one of the characters of that film. It's about a family of activists in Brazil during the dictatorship. And how it's insidious. You don't really see how power is moving. It's a brilliant film. Watch it. Moving on to this wonderful artist, Michelle Angela Ortiz is another artist who brought together a community that was steeped in suffering to connect through art. As part of a moving monument entitled Seguimos Caminando, we keep walking. We're going to watch this film soon. She was honoring the mothers at Burke's Detention Center for Immigrant Families and led several free paper flower workshops. The paper flowers were joined, that were made, were joined by the paper flowers by mothers that were making paper flowers inside Burke's detention center, which carry messages of freedom to create this monumental. This is a monumental, the Libertad that you see on the picture is a monumental artwork created by these flowers that called Governor Tom Wolfe to end family detention in Pennsylvania. And after 8 years of relentless organizing, art making, and demands for justice, the shut down Burke's coalition succeeded in permanently closing the infamous ICE detention center in 2023. That's the power of the arts. Oh no, let's see if we can do this here. Let's see how they.
Soy el agua,
Can you hear
soy
it?
la vida, soy la madre de la fuente cristalina, soy un canto musical de claves, soy la llave de este mundo y su brebaje, soy la lluvia que te brinda el aguacero, el chubasco permanente de amor verdadero, soy el volcán del cielo, la lava creciente que recorre los campos de hielo, soy la hija de la tierra, soy la amante que cultiva los frutos y su siembra, soy el rocío que salpica fulminante, los rayos de sol, un arcoíris penetrante, soy dulce, soy salada, soy la pluma de la flecha andina con su danza, soy la esperanza de mi pueblo, soy la promesa intacta, soy la sangre de este suelo, soy el consuelo, soy la cura, soy la figura más pura, soy la nieve, soy la bruma, soy la cascada que salta por catarata, la súbita regata de vida que nos retrata, yo soy la piel de todos, soy el copo de nieve que llora por tus ojos, soy esa fuerza que se precipita en el centro del capullo donde nace la semilla.
Freedom songs. Imagine that. Thousands of flowers at the heels of power. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. We're here and we're not going anywhere.
Soy el agua, soy la vida, soy la madre, soy la fuente que...
Yes. So, the charge on Saldúa, Dr. Isasi Diaz, Pape Ortiz, and so many others put in front of us today is to remember our stories, recover our desires, and respond to the divine calling of conjuring wholeness when there is brokenness, of lamenting, of grieving, and sensing what weighs heavy on us so that we may collectively act, so that we can find a common unity in community. The task requires courage, awareness, moving with intention, and discerning what our next steps, our next collective steps might look like. Tuan Saldúa, artists and images and stories help us access this, our knowings, our roots, our strength, our medicine, and that which colonialism has forced us to either lose, forget, dispose of, what it has stolen from us. We make art, we gather, we sing, we ritualize in order to find the sound of our voices. Yes, Thurman puts it, right? Find the sound of our voices in order to remember who we are. Art helps us to touch one another in times of exile. And in Ansaldua's words, the locus of resistance, of rupture, implosion, explosion, and of putting together the fragments and creating new assemblages. Because art changes our point of reference. Arte cambia el punto de referencia. It changes, right? It disrupts the neat separation, and it bleeds, it's porous, it tears apart, and it rebuilds. I have a quote here from Ansaldúa that I really, really love because she urges us to write with our eyes like painters, our ears like musicians, our feet like dancers. You are the truth sayer with quill and torch. Write with your tongues of fire. Don't let the pen banish from yourself. Don't let the ink coagulate in your pens. Don't let the censors snuff out the spark, nor the gags muffle your voice. Put your shit on paper. We're not reconciled to the oppressors. Find the divine within you, the voice that lies buried under you. Dig it up. Love, Gloria. Let's breathe this in for a moment, everyone. These words, all of the wisdom that we've seen, before we move to this last artist that I want to share with you today, if we can take a collective breath in and let out a sigh. This last artist, his name is Nicholas Galanin, and is also somebody who set traps for something that we think as a totalizing force, right? The US-Mexico border. I learned this from a wonderful friend of mine, Angel Gallardo. We were just doing work and research and ritual together last week at the border. And as we were standing at the iron wall, he said, you know, we think of it as this totalizing force, but what would it look like if we started working to take this down? It's not as intransponível. I don't know how to translate that word. It's not as
Say it in
um,
Spanish. I can translate it for you if you want.
intransponable. Does that word exist?
Intranspolible, meaning like
You can't transpose it. Like it's untransposable. You
there
can't,
you go.
right? Like you can't, it's
Right.
something that it's so big that you can't really you can't reckon with it, you can't win from it, you can't traverse it, you can take it down. And this is what this artist did. Let me show you. So he's a member, this is Nicholas Galanin. He's a member of the Sitka tribe in Alaska, and it's a celebrated Tlingit artist amplifying indigenous narratives through his arts. This is one of his latest artworks. This was done, it's a steel sculpture that stood tall at Brooklyn Bridge, as you can see, up until March of 2024. It's called In Every Language There Is Land, en cada lengua hay una tierra. And it was constructed with material and scale of the US-Mexico border wall. The sculpture spells land in a fashion that recalled this artist Robert Indiana's love sculptures that you probably may have seen around the country and the world. And to construct this, he diverted steel that was en route to building the border wall, symbolically interrupting the wall's construction, even if for a brief moment. So whoever continues to build, the contractors that continue to build the wall, they had to struggle to find the material that was supposed to be delivered for the construction. Well, guess where it was? It was right there under the Brooklyn Bridge. So here he exposes the way such territorial demarcations depend on our consent. And they also depend on the constant dispossession of indigenous peoples, lands, waterways, and ways of knowing, because the birds are crossing the borders, goods are crossing the borders, capital is crossing the borders, but bodies, very specific bodies, cannot cross the border. So by using the very material that was intended for division, exclusion, Galanin's piece invites us to reflect on our complicity to such systems of colonial, environmental, and epistemic violence. Let's listen to what he says.
Creative sovereignty in creating work is a form of reclamation of our ideas, our knowledge, our language, our place, while including other perspectives and allowing other ideas and other people's experiences to be accessed through that work too.
Nicholas, tell us a little bit about your approach to making art.
I'm Tlingit and Unanga, so I'm based in Sitka, Alaska. And it's foundational for me. The history of my culture is really important. The connection to place is really important. Working with Public Art Fund, the opportunity to share my practice, my voice, and work in a space like this in New York, it's a great opportunity for open dialogue and discourse.
The land wasn't meant to be cut up and taken over and have this kind of ownership. It's supposed to be ours. It's supposed to be free.
When I think land, I think of, the land that was taken from Native communities.
Well, as a Native American, I think it's mine, but I think it's for everybody to use and share. It's all one land, it's all ours.
The fact that it says land means, like, this land is your land, this land is my land, kind of reclaiming that. That's how I'm interpreting it.
Nicholas, I was really thrilled that you were excited about Brooklyn Bridge Park as a location, and the invitation to consider this place in Lenape-Hoking, the traditional home of the Lenape people. I wonder why this site appealed to you, what you found interesting about it.
This piece is site-specific. We're showing this on Lenape territory, though the conversation is very broad. It's a conversation that sweeps generations, territories, and borders. The history of New York, the told history, the indigenous history, the political aspects of immigration into metropolis. Having work like this, having a conversation alongside even passageways, whether it be natural ones like waterways or bridges that are created to give access when we're talking about restricting it, is an important part of that too. So there's a lot of layers. There's definitely a collision in some of these forms from the, I would say, like a brutalist aesthetic of design for something like the US-Mexico border wall to something like Robert Indiana's Love sculpture. And I feel like this piece offers a lot of room for that based on the material, based on the scale, based on the location. This material was made in the USA.
This material isn't a copy. This is exactly the material that's used to make the US-Mexico border wall.
Yeah, it was intentional to work with something that was created for that purpose, based on specific dimensions of border walls. It's important to see it and understand that those are scarring our lands and that construction continues.
As we stand here, sort of inside the structure, you have a sense of the brutality of the material.
Yeah.
Like, we could be imprisoned, we could be divided from each other, but at the same time, to recontextualize that in this exploded form, it serves a purpose of enjoyment, of openness, of transparency, of connecting people, which is a really remarkable thing.
I feel like in contrast,
I can share the link to this. It's a much longer film. We won't have time to watch the whole thing, but I can share. I'll put in the chat the link to this, so you can watch at your own time. Let me move to this. So I guess what I've been trying to share here as we gather around this imaginative campfire is that what we call today the arts and creativity and art making and artivism are technologies of our millennial expression of communal, of communion and survival. They are interweavings of our cultures, communities, struggles, and the stuff of our humanity in all our capacity for wound and wonder, or as the poet, what is her name? Cecilia Vicuña coined this word, wonder, in all our capacity for wonder. So witnessing, beholding, telling stories around campfire, making, shaking, dancing, and sharing are creative acts that have allowed our ancestors to continue to fight to become freer than the previous generations. An existential necessity. Creative acts allow us to tap into complex and challenging feelings and create realities even if one does not seem possible at the moment. The arts allow us to remain open, to be in touch with that which is not readily available through language, through spoken or written language, to experience a sense of renewed purpose and wholeness despite our brokenness, to flourish. And when we flourish, we remain curious and creative and open to each other. We nurture our mental, our physical, our emotional, and collective health. We begin to enter into this movement of healing. When we engage with visual thinking, we reach new insights in a non-threatening way, like I said. As we remain open, we can dance on the edge of uncertainty to expand our awareness and our capacity to hold ambiguity in the face of ultimate mystery that is to be alive in this vast, vast world. So, art is not just a mirror of our times, they are medicine bundles. They are maps with escape routes. They let them enter your life as practices of sacred resistance, a wellspring for collective healing, and a thread that deepens our and your belonging to yourself, to each other, to this land. It's my hope that something came alive in us today. And I'm going to invite you to sit with these artists, these images, words, and works, to allow them to do their magic and operate their medicine on you. Let them be reminders that as you plunge into the unknown, like that spider, that at the intersection of today's shadow and tomorrow's dreams, there lies you carrying the gossamer within. Before we open up to a conversation, I was wondering if we could pause for a moment and try to integrate some of what we've learned, because it's a lot of information of a lot of artists, not enough time for this conversation that could be a lifetime, a conversation of a lifetime. And my invitation is for you to find something that you can doodle within, maybe some paper and pen, uh, and a comfortable position that you can draw or write from, whatever is possible for you today. And I'm gonna ask you to start breathing steadily and slowly. I'll give you some time to find pen and paper, maybe a minute, and then we'll do a little active meditation and then some doodling. And to inspire us, I'm gonna put some gentle music so we can get activated other parts of our bodies. Okay. Can you hear this? Yeah? Cool. Okay. So the invitation is for you to sit as comfortable and comfortably as possible, and to start breathing with your conscious awareness of the act of inhaling and filling up your lungs, and exhaling, letting it all out. You can breathe in a count of 4 and out in a count of 5. You can do this a couple times to reset our nervous system. So when you feel ready, you can think up of a word, a phrase, an image. I have the word breathe here as an example. This is a word that you're going to hold on to, explore, meditate on, maybe explore later. And the invitation is for you to write that word in the middle of the page. And let the movement of your hands kind of guide you from one side of the page and
Does it
align.
matter how big or small the word breathe should be on the paper? Okay.
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't have to be breathe. It can be your own word. The idea is for you to listen to what your body is whispering today. And maybe you need something else altogether. And when we're doing trauma-informed work, we're always choosing before we're doing. So if this invitation doesn't sit well with you and your body's asking you to get up and stretch or get some tea or take a walk or exit the Zoom room, do what you need to nurture your body today. Maybe there was some discomfort that was experienced, something that was triggering here today. The invitation is to pay attention to it, not judging it, but being curious about it, right? And as this music continues to play for the next few minutes, my invitation is for you to continue to doodle and to draw these lines. I think there's a video here, yeah, of what the lines may look like, if they're wobbly, if they're straight, it doesn't matter. What they are is a non-verbal way of expressing and getting to what is wanting to unfold today. So I will check back in 3 to 5 minutes, if that's okay. As we're bringing this practice to a close, I invite you to write an affirmation so you can come back to it. Let me show you. I'm going to show you something I did another day. This lives in my altar now, within my altar, because it was an important reminder of what I wanted to return to. I'll be right back. Ta-da. I wrote, commit to your vision, to your creative practice at a time where I really needed to remind myself to do this. So this is my offering. Well, thank you for showing up, everyone, for sharing space, for sharing breath. I hope the images and the voices and stories we held today stay with you in some kind of way. They stir you, they invite you to move with intention and attention into action. May you walk out of here a little bit more tender, a little bit more bold, and a little bit more free than you did before. And when we're feeling weary, may we remember that we're all carrying this divine gossamer within us. Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna stop the sharing so we can talk and look at each other. Hi. It's good to see all of your faces now because I was only seeing the slides.
My God, Dr. Yunker, thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been just, and we're going to have a little bit more time together too, but just sacred time that you created. And
I'm
I want
honored.
to say to you that you talked about a divine spark. It shines through you. It shines through
Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you. I appreciate the space. This is magic for me because go, going through my studies, my PhD in these very strict academic, sort of immovable structures, I always felt like it was really hard to bring all my intersections to into the rooms that I was part of. And you all have allowed me to pull the threads of all of these things that have formed me into a meaningful time. So I appreciate this is sacred work for me. So thank you.
You. I don't know
So
if
I
you
think,
can see. Can you see what's going on in the chat? People are thanking
oh yeah.
you.
Oh
Can you see?
wow.
They're writing
Yeah.
such lovely. Dr. West
Oh,
is beautiful, beautiful note.
oh
Um,
yes. Yes, let's do that. Oh, thank
um,
you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm only a mirror of all of you. I can only be because you all are. And I think this is sacred work to invite us all to, lift up mirrors to one another, to remind us of the gift that we are to the world. So I'm here reflecting back the gifts that you all are to this space and your communities and your families. And thank you. If you have questions and things that you would like to share, the drawings and the writings, they're meant for your reflection. But if you feel called to share, I would love to hear. God bless you all too.